Hi everyone, welcome to Draw with Jan channel. In this video, I'm going to show you how to draw a realistic Snickers chocolate using markers. I have used Prismacolor markers for the coloring. I have also used color pencils and a white gel pen in a few places for the highlights. The details of the materials used have been posted in the description of this video. The first and foremost thing is getting the drawing right. Make sure the pencil marks are light and not visible later while coloring. The letters on the chocolate need to be in the right proportions for it to look realistic. For the coloring, I'm starting with dark umber for the edges of the wrapper. Pay attention to the pattern in the edges and shade carefully. I'm going to use a lighter shade of brown for the inner part later, so moving on to the red outline in the wrapper now. Using poppy red for this shading, the chocolate is placed on the surface at an angle, so the red lines are not going to be even throughout. It is thinner at the bottom of the wrapper, which creates an illusion to show that the chocolate is slightly tilted and placed on the surface. Now moving on to shading the letters, using Ultramarine for this. Now this is the part where you need to be the most careful about while shading, since there are also some white parts in the shading, creating almost an embossed font effect. Try not to make any mistakes while shading, since it can become really difficult to correct it later. Although a few things can be corrected later using a white gel pen. Now using light gray for the shading here. I'm going to use different colors here to create a three-dimensional effect. Switching to light tan for the wrapper shading. Using dark umber once again to create a three-dimensional effect to make the wrapper appear folded. Now using light gray under the red layer for the outline. Switching back to dark umber for the top side of the wrapper. There is fun size written here, which is supposed to be in white font, so I'm going to shade dark umber around it to highlight these letters. This again is a tricky part, so pay attention to the details and try to be as precise as possible while shading. I will get back to this later to bring out the letters more evenly and clearly. Now moving on to the bottom part of the wrapper and using dark umber to complete this. Creating a slightly curved outline here to show that the chocolate is tilted. Now finishing up the right side of the wrapper using dark umber. Make sure you get the pattern on the edges right. Using Ultramarine now to show the wrapper underneath coming out, again with similar patterns and with a grey outline. Also finishing up the top right of the wrapper. Now using black to show the wrapper underneath coming out on the left side. Also going to go over with black on the right side over the ultramarine. Now for the shadow, using French grey 20% for the first layer. Using French grey 50% for the second layer. And finally, using French grey 70% for the final layer. This can really add to the depth of your drawing and make it look three-dimensional and realistic. The shading beneath the object needs to be the darkest for the shadow, and it slowly needs to fade away. Also, you can really bring out the position and angle of the object using your shading technique and where you place your shadow. Adding another layer of French grey 50% below this for a smooth transition. Also adding shadows for the second layer of wrapper to show it under the first layer. The video was shot at different times during the day and hence the change in the lighting in the video. Sorry about that. Now adding a bit of black to the wrapper to add further to the 3D effect. Now as I'm using this, I'm also going to use Sienna Brown for the transition between the dark and lighter shades. I'm now using a white gel pen for the highlights in the edges of the wrapper. Back to using black, dark umber and sienna brown for the remaining parts of the wrapper. Now using a white gel pen to define the letters more neatly and clearly. Using violet blue for a darker shading in letter N and S to show a curved wrapper instead of a flat one. Using a white color pencil to define highlights in the red line. This, along with some grey shading on the wrapper and a few highlights on the red part, can really change the appearance of the wrapper from a flat surface to a curvy one. I will get back to more details on this in a few minutes. Now defining the font's font size more clearly using a white gel pen. Also defining the highlights in the edges of the wrapper and also in the inner parts of the wrapper. These highlights go a long way in making your drawing look realistic. Now defining more highlights using a white color pencil. Also using crimson red to shade some parts of the wrapper darker to make it appear slightly folded. Now using warm grey 20% on the inner side of the wrapper. Although this part looks white, the subtle grey goes to add depth and dimensions to the drawing. Paying attention to these tiny details can really help you produce a realistic output. I'm going to add some finishing touches in the next few minutes, and I've captured it all in this video for you to follow. Hope you enjoyed watching this video. Take your markers and try it out. It's definitely fun drawing realism. It takes a lot of practice to achieve perfection, but the first step is to attempt. You can learn a lot through experience, so keep trying. Thanks for watching and please subscribe to my YouTube channel for more drawing videos.